So without further ado, please help me welcoming Nonie Darwish.
What a pleasure it is to be here today. I want to thank True Feminists of Miami University for inviting me, and to your distinguished university. This is a wonderful campus, and I'm honored to be here. The topic of feminism is fascinating, and any group and any ideology or any movement is always a great to examine, see where we're heading, and maybe redirecting our means to achieve our goals. How we are impacting society is very important for any movement, to examine how we fit in society. And also, any unintended consequences to our way of doing things. And it's always okay to change courses as long as the basic values are there. Having been born and raised as a Muslim in the Middle East, I traveled extensively around Europe, the Middle East, and of course America, and I was a journalist. And I can say without a doubt that America has been the world leader in revolutionizing the role of women in society and has impacted the whole world more than you can ever think. For instance, not many Americans know that in 1919, when American women acquired the right to vote, it impacted the whole world. The international women's suffrage movement actually did not just end in Europe. It has impacted even many parts of the Middle East. There was an Egyptian feminist by the name of Huda Sha'rawi who led the first women's street demonstrations in Cairo in 1923. She also attended in Europe the Women's Suffrage Alliance in Rome. And when she came back to Cairo from her visit to Europe, she and a large number around her of about 100 and 150 women who were educated upper-class Egyptians. They arrived from Alexandria to Cairo by train, and they stood in the train station in Cairo, and all of them at the same time took off their burqa and threw it, and announced that this is a new day for Egyptian women. And that is why the feminist Huda Sha'rawi is remembered until today as having liberated many Egyptian women. And that was due to the impact of the West. That's why my grandmother never wore a burqa, my mother never wore a burqa, and I never wore a burqa in Egypt. And a huge number of Egyptian women did not. And her movement was pretty much cosmetic. It was wearing Western clothes. But this symbol brought with it a lot of education of women in Egypt. The reason me and all my cousins and my sisters in Egypt have university degrees was because of Huda Sha'rawi. It became a symbol of emancipation of women. That movement survived until the 1970s. And a strong radical Islamist movement started and in the 80s. And the burqa returned back to Egypt and many parts of the Muslim world. Many Muslim women were left in a quagmire. It's either I choose to be viewed as a devout Muslim and a good woman, or an outcast rebel feminist. Most chose the former. Feminism actually became a dirty word. And we can learn from that lesson in the West. From the Egyptian short experiment with feminism, that the passage of time on a movement does not necessarily mean it became better, progressed in the right direction, and brought liberty and fit in the general societal structure in a positive way. Most feminists in the Middle East, who are very few, there is no grassroots feminist movement in the Muslim world right now. In Egypt, very recently, in the revolution that just happened, there was no women walking and declaring they want more freedom. There was no feminist. There's no grassroots feminist movement. And most of the feminists, even Sha'rawi herself, blamed the oppression of women not on the Sharia law, Islamic law, which actually codifies the oppression of women into law. But most of them blamed it on the misinterpretation of Islamic law, which is not true. So, as long as we are in denial of what is the root of the problem in the Middle East, the solution will not come. The bottom line is that law of every society is what gives women their equal rights and their human rights. And equal rights is innate in us. All of us want to be treated well and to have rights. Whether we're men or women, it doesn't matter. My right comes from within me, it's given to me by my Creator, by God. And the most important thing really is that the law of the society, the laws on the books, give women equal rights. And from that standpoint, America has given women full rights, equal rights as men. There's always going to be abuse. There's always going to be oppression of women, oppression of men, crime. There's always going to be that. But the most important thing is the law. I want to give you an idea about my feeling when I first came to America. I came to the United States in November of '78. And my first job in America, I was a new immigrant, and I used to read everything around me. So the hallway in my new job, there was a sign that said, this institution does not discriminate in hiring on the basis of gender, race, national origin, or religion. And I read it, and I reread it, and I reread it. And I was in awe. That simple statement that most Americans take for granted was revolutionary in my perception of myself. I stood there, I said, does that really mean I don't have laws governing me different from laws governing men? Because in the country I came from, there are laws for men, laws for women, laws for Muslims, laws for non-Muslims. And everybody should follow Sharia, Islamic law, whether you're Muslim or not. And let me give you a few examples of what Muslim women must live under. There is no age limit for marriage of girls under Sharia. This horrendous law is the reason behind some girls in the story of the girl in Yemen who was filing for divorce at age 8. Filing for divorce at age 8. There's another one, she was granted a divorce. There's another one, an 8-year-old in Saudi Arabia, who was returned back by the court to her 52-year-old husband. So These are the consequences of these laws. I'm not saying that all Muslim men are bad and they all go and marry 8-year-old girls, but when the law stands for such abuses, it becomes a threat to every young girl whose father, especially if they're poor, to just sell her to a man, take the dowry, and so it is the law that stands in the way of reform in the Muslim world. There's another law that says a Muslim will not be punished for killing an adulterer. What does that mean? It means there are certain murders in the Muslim world that are allowed in vigilante street justice. And the person who will do that crime, will do that murder, will be forgiven. That puts the law, the execution of the law, in the hands not just of the police, but in the hands of anybody on the street. So if I'm an adulterous woman, or I have sex outside of marriage, and someone kills me, an honor killing, they will not be prosecuted. And this is the law that's behind honor killing of girls. You see a wife is being murdered and immediately I caught her with another man. Okay, fine. He is entitled, the husband is entitled to kill his wife. And another law, a man has the right to beat a rebellious wife. The word rebellious could be one that she answered him coldly, or she didn't fix his dinner. So, a rebellious wife also is not just beaten, but it nullifies the husband's obligation of supporting her also. And it's up to him to decide if she's a rebellious wife. A man does not have to say why to the police why he beat his wife. So again, women abuse can happen anywhere. Men abuse can happen anywhere. The difference is that if you're in America and your husband beats you up, you can call the police. They'll come and defend you, and he's going to be prosecuted, put in jail. If a Muslim woman living in the Muslim world, she will call the police and nobody will dare do anything with the husband. It's within his right. Also, divorce is only in the hands of the husband. And it's very easy. It can be said verbally. Only verbally, you're divorced. And she's divorced. She gets nothing. And there is no community property under Islamic law. So a husband can die, if he dies, the inheritance goes to the family, to the children, to the parents, to the cousins, to the uncles, and the wife is just one of the many people in line. And if he has more than one wife, because polygamy is allowed under Islam, then she'd be lucky if she gets something at the end. So there's no community property. There is a reason why there is no community property. The minute you have polygamy, what woman wants to merge her wealth if she has an inheritance with her husband, who can marry another woman? And then the wealth of the family will be dispersed between several sets of women and their children. And that's why there is no community property. A man has the right to have up to 4 wives. And this is not just a right. It really spoils the relationship between men and women. Because I have in my book, which is, this book is about Islamic law and how it impacts society. Polygamy, when there is a Muslim marriage contract, And in that contract, a girl is asked if she's a virgin. And if she's not a virgin, she goes back to her family. The man, the husband, gets his dowry back. And she's probably going to be killed in an honor killing. Also, in the contract, it states questions to the husband. Please, wife, name and address of wife number 1, wife number 2, wife number 3, if any. And a Muslim man doesn't have to be married. He could be a perfectly good husband. But in time of trouble, when the marriage is on, having trouble, it's very easy to just have another wife and verbally divorce her. Or not, you don't even have to divorce her. You can have her sit there because she's going to be sitting there waiting for him to divorce her. Please divorce me. He doesn't have to divorce her. It's all in his hands. So women under Islam enter the marriage not expecting loyalty from the husband under the law. If he's loyal to her and he's good to her, that's because of her lucky day, because of his good graces. And I'm not saying all Muslim men use these rights in a negative way, but if it's there, it can really spoil the relationship. Because in the back of the mind of every Muslim woman, oh boy, he can marry another woman. And I remember as a young girl, I had an uncle, and I was visiting him one day, and he and his wife had an argument in the bedroom, and I could hear it. And I heard her telling him, please, know as many women as you want, but please just don't marry on me. Don't marry on me. I don't want to be sharing a husband with another woman. And it really struck me how weak she was, how weak legally she was. There is something called mut'a or pleasure marriage for men only, which means you can have a marriage for an hour. It's just for pleasure. It's legalized prostitution. You can never catch a man in Islam being unfaithful to his wife because it's legal. It's all legal. Only women are caught in the act of adultery or sexual violations. 75% of women in Pakistan in jail are there for sexual violations only. Walking in the street with a man who's not her husband is a violation. Or he's not a blood relative.